Good afternoon. I'm Mike Haas from NASA, and I would like to take just a few minutes to kick off our afternoon session and explain some of the content that we have this afternoon. As I described early this morning, there are a number of studies, a number of concepts and alternatives that have been proposed by a variety of folks, and we have tried to get many of those fundamentally on the table today through all these presentations. So I would like to just kind of walk through kind of a quick look at this afternoon's set of presentations, Norm. And since you know I need to duck out early, I appreciate the forbearance so I can do this and duck out. The first set of topics that we'll start right as soon as I'm done is we called EELV considerations. And in that, we would ask NASA Lynn Klein to talk about our current use of the EELVs. We would then ask ULA, and I believe it's going to be Mike Gass, present ULA's activities as well. And then everybody knows, imagine that there has been an aerospace study going on about use of EELVs. Is that a surprise to anybody in the room? Okay. We have managed to get to where we can have a public briefing of some of the summary comments from that report. Gary Pulliam from Aerospace will talk that. We don't have a final report yet. We've had to do a public version of that report, and we're still in the final throes of clearance, but Gary is here, and he's going to give us the top-level findings of that. After that, then we're also going to talk about some of our other launch providers, and particularly talk about our commercial orbital COTS program. And again, in a similar fashion, asked NASA, in the first case, Doug Cook, to talk about the COTS program in terms of its demonstration program, ask both SpaceX and Orbital to talk about their activities, and then also ask NASA Mike Suffredini to talk about, now in the follow-on, the cargo resupply contract that has just been awarded. Same two companies involved, but have Mike highlight the process and the importance to the ISS program of that particular activity. Then to close out, there are a couple other that I would call alternative architectures that have been out in the public eye, the blogosphere, whatever we call ourselves, for a long time. And we did want to have some discussion of those for the panel to at least introduce those ideas. One is usually called direct, and we have asked Steve Mitchen to pitch for the direct team, so we'll hear that. The other one is that there's a variety of options that can be called shuttle C, shuttle side mount. The challenge of that is that the shuttle-derived options some years ago had an industry team that had been put together and was doing a lot of that definition, but that had tapered off as we had proceeded down the baseline. And so to try to get that on the table, I was in kind of an awkward situation of finding a spokesperson that could bring the most recent discussions and ideas of that. So I will admit that it looks strange, but the person that I could twist his arm into doing this is John Shannon. So I know it looks a little bit odd of having NASA propose an alternative architecture, but as it is the most shuttle-tied architecture, I have asked John to tie those pieces together, even though it represents thoughts of a lot of different NASA and industry components. So don't read overly much into the fact that I browbeat John into doing that. That's just the best way we could get that option on the table. So with that, I will turn it back over to the chair and for any opening comments, Norm, and then we could start with Lynn.
Why don't we go right ahead?